Okay, the LaserBand is charged up. I want to go through using it. A couple things that I wanted to say. Just sort of thoughts about some of the materials and stuff like that. I think it's kind of interesting that in the clinical trials, it's almost like they didn't test this on anybody that's of like a darker complexion from what it seemed like. I'm trying to find out where it said that. Which I think is kind of weird. So it was almost like they didn't test it on people of maybe like African American background. Okay, so here's the thing. It's like talking about the skin types that they used it on. I don't know if you can see that, if it's lined up really, but basically I'll read it to you. Fitzpatrick skin type classification guide, and it's saying like, it says clinically tested for these skin types: type 1, type 2, type 3, type 4. So type 1 is very white or freckled skin, 2 is white skin, 3 is white or olive tone, type 4 brown skin, rarely burns with sun exposure, common in people of Mediterranean descent. But then it says not clinically tested for these skin types: dark brown skin, very rarely burns with sun exposure, common in people of Middle Eastern descent. Type 6 black skin, never burns with sun exposure. So basically African descent, from what that sounds like. So I think that's kind of weird that, and I don't know why that is. If there was maybe when they try to do the clinical trials, they couldn't get anybody to come forward with, dark skin. I don't really know, but pretty much every race is affected by hair loss, except the one. I've never seen anybody, so I live in Arizona, and there's a lot of people of Native American descent, and I've never seen anybody of Navajo descent that has like the horseshoe pattern and where they're bald. And for whatever reason, it seems like maybe their hair follicles aren't susceptible to DHT or something. So, but you see it in African descent, you see it in like East Indian descent, Asian descent, Caucasian descent, all that. So I don't know. Not really sure why they didn't test it on more skin types, but we're gonna go ahead and use this. It's charged up, so power button's kind of weird. It's actually the lower one of the two, and then basically you hear the vibration. So I'm gonna put this up here, but you see. You guys can hear that. There's slight vibration, just like the Professional 12. So it's doing it every 4 seconds. And again, I mean, you're gonna have to hold this thing. Like, it's gotta fall off. And not that that's like a huge deal, but because if it's going for 90 seconds, to hold it, it's not going to be that big of a deal. But in a lot of the promotional stuff, they've kind of got it pictured like someone's like, this, and they're like, like with some cheesy kind of smile on their face. But you're pretty much going to have to move this thing. And again, this is about as far back as I'm going to move it, because you're not going to lose your hair here. But some people have already commented on the last video that was the unboxing, and people are like, it's too expensive. And I can understand why people say that. It's like $795 for this. But the Professional 12 series was around 500, and it had 12 lasers. This one has 82. And then there's a shorter, I guess 90 seconds versus whatever the Professional 12 is like 8 minutes. for a session. So I know I just kind of moved. I didn't do that the right way, but I was wanting to get higher up or further down. I'm not very good at multitasking. So anyway, but what I was saying about the expense, I can understand the thought process that, oh, it's too expensive and all that stuff. And in a lot of ways, they're probably, Hairmax for one, the lasers cost a certain amount. You got a lithium ion battery in here. That's not cheap. But you look at certain brands. I mean, think about, is a Porsche or Lamborghini too expensive, or is a Ferrari too expensive, or whatever? Yeah, probably. People still buy them. Yeah. So are Apple iPhones too expensive? You could get a Samsung Galaxy or something, and obviously there's arguments there. What's better, what's not, stuff like that. It's most of the Android devices are cheaper than Apple devices, or if you get, these Apple devices, let's say like MacBooks and stuff like that, are Intel architecture. Just like whatever your IBM compatibles, or your, what people say is a PC, which doesn't make sense because that stands for personal computer, which clearly like an Apple MacBook or something like that, that's a personal computer, but you know what I'm saying. These Windows-based, IBM compatible machines versus your Apple devices. Your Apple devices are a lot more expensive. A lot of it you're paying for design and branding, and they're pitching to a higher end client. And so you could pretty much say that, Hairmax is doing that to a certain extent with the boxing and everything. The boxing is super nice, and these devices are designed, it's pretty elegant. Now, functionality wise, like I said in the last video on this, you're gonna have to hold this. Your arms do kind of get a little bit tired. I'm not just talking smack here about the whole thing. I'm just giving you guys my honest opinions. But should any of that, you have to decide for yourself. Are you gonna buy this device? It just depends how important kind of the hair loss, or is that the way you're gonna approach it? Some people would be like, you know what, Propecia is my best bet. I'm going to go for that. I don't care if my balls hurt or whatever. And that's your choice. So that's what it does when it's done. You guys heard that extend is like, so that's the completion of it. Every other day, so maybe like Monday, Wednesday, Friday is, kind of the setup for it again. It's just not real long duration, and maybe I'm just weak. But a shadow of my former self, I guess, here. But when you get about halfway through, it's almost like you do get to a point where you do want to drop your hands. If you guys have ever done anything where you're maybe hanging, you're working on the ceiling or something like that, and your hands are up, and it's like it gets super tiring really quick. So, but anyway, back to my whole spiel on the expense and the design and all that kind of stuff. Lexington International is in business to make money. No problem with that. They had to probably come up with a design that was going to be able to function properly with this amount of lasers. But it seems like the main patents that they have are mainly on the teeth, and maybe some of the other devices like that Theradome, or some of the other ones that were like a complete cap. Maybe they had some kind of a patent on being like a cap version, and so maybe Hairmax couldn't really do that. I'm not really sure. So it is what it is. As far as, again, the expense of the thing, it's all relative. I mean, some people, $795, that's not a lot of money to them, whether they make that in a day or they make it in a couple days or whatever it may be. To them, a device that would last years you know, that there has a quick, I guess, what do I want to say? Like a quick treatment phase, you know, of 90 seconds, that they would be like, yeah, that's worth it. I'm going to buy it. Some people are like, no, it's too expensive. I guess for the people that are more expensive, I've been saying this for a long time. I think that if you don't have the money for something like this, that almost your best bet is to more focus in on the like Nizoral Shampoo or the Rogaine Pure Deal. It's like the ketoconazole. It's kind of a tongue twister for me. But you're going to have to buy shampoo anyway, you know, unless you're letting your hair just kind of naturally dread up or something. But, you know, you're typically going to have to buy shampoo. So if you get the ketoconazole shampoo, like the Nizoral or the Rogaine Pure, and that's where you want to spend your money. Yeah, I get that. That makes sense. I guess time will tell. There's a lot of arguments. Obviously, people argue back and forth of, you know, whether these devices are like that they work and stuff like that. But I'm convinced that the laser light therapy does work based on like the different studies and stuff I've seen. Now the clinical stuff that they did with this, it doesn't, like, to me it seems like there needs to be more studies and there needs to be a broader range of people with different skin types and from different backgrounds, like in the studies and stuff like that. So I'm just telling you guys my experience. It's going to take a while. We're going to have to show this over time to see if I'm able to retain my hair. Again, hairline wise, it's, you know, and I'm sure a lot of you guys go through this too. There's certain days with, you know, maybe the kind of shampoo you use, those different kind of things, whether it's dry or wet, but you probably go back and forth. One day you're like, you know, like freaking out, like, oh man, like I really think I'm like losing the battle, like I'm losing more hair. And then there's probably days where you're like, just maybe the way it's cut, whatever it is, the length of it. And then, you know, you're thinking, yeah, my hair looks pretty good, you know, it doesn't look like there's any issues and stuff. And so I'm always mentally going through that too. So that's why I want to rely on the pictures. And if you go back a couple videos, if you guys have been following me, if you look back in the playlist for the hair loss stuff, there was one that was a before and after picture from like 2012, and then pictures, you know, going forward a few years, so you can kind of see that. And what I'm going to do is, let's say at the beginning of 2017, then I'm going to do the same thing. So we're going to get kind of a track history, and we're going to see over time. If you guys want to buy this device or check it out online, there's a link in the description. So go ahead and subscribe. I'm going to be putting up more videos, and I'll check you guys later.